Yes, in terms of harming people and being sensitive to people's feelings and everything along those lines, there was a story that recently came out that, again, was on the Shade Room because this is where I get all of my news from.
Glory to
Um,
Shade Room.
yes. Well, I'm sorry. That's just what comes up on Instagram. I don't necessarily turn the TV on to watch news. Maybe that's a millennial thing. I'm not trying to be ageist, but I'm just saying. I say all that to say there was a rape incident on a SEPTA train. Wow. And the crazy part about this story is that instead of people helping the woman, well, before I even get to that, the fact that it happened in broad daylight and that it just happened on a train in a public place like that and not somewhere off in the dark, not saying that that's okay, but that's the crazy part about this story. That's the first thing. The second thing is that people decided to record this incident going on instead of doing something about it. And what happened was the lady was being groped, and then her pants were even eventually taken off, and people just continued to record this session going on. So another thing about this story is people are coming out and they want the bystanders to be put under arrest for what happened. They don't feel as though it was right for them to record. Someone should have jumped in, stepped in, done something, and at least not recorded anything at all. And so, again, I say all that to say, what do you guys think about this incident? Would you have jumped in this situation? And how does social media play a role in what happened in this specific incident?
Wow. I'm going to say this. Number one, that's somebody's mother, sister, cousin, aunt. So naturally, yes, I would have jumped in to stop that. And to have people sit, it just goes to show either there's a lot of fear out here or a lot of insensitivity or a combination of both. And then this, a point that I know my brother Thomas is going to bring up, the voyeur nature that we have where we want to, with this social media, we want to put everything and capture everything. I don't feel that people who did that should be arrested. However, they should be ashamed just to do that and watch it, because if it was them, they want somebody to step in and help. And that's where we have to be more sensitive as a culture. And as people to say, that's my neighbor, that's my friend, that's somebody that matters, even though I may not even know them personally. What I'm looking at is wrong. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. It's scary jumping in nowadays. There have been situations that we've seen on the news where black men stop people from arguing or fighting, and they're the ones that get shot and killed by the police. As a black man, I would have loved to have said that I would have stopped this. But dealing with the reality of being a black man nowadays, I'm not going to say that I would have sat there and recorded it, but jumping in and helping nowadays can sometimes lead to your death. So you got to be calculated in what it is that you do.
Right.
I would have hoped that enough of that video footage would have shown, hey, look, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was trying to help.
Right.
But jumping in nowadays is going to be scary.
Well, the state's attorney actually came out and said that none of the bystanders were going to be charged. There's nothing that they can legally hold them to. There's no law that says that they can actually arrest these people.
Yeah, they can't make you risk your life for somebody else.
Exactly. But to your point, sometimes with social media recordings, and in this situation, it was used in a negative light. There may be some positive to it because they can take that footage and actually see what's going on and prosecute the person. But sometimes recording things for social media does save people's lives or bring things to justice. We've seen it all over with the Black Lives Matter movement and the George Floyd. If those things were not recorded, then we wouldn't even know about that story to this day. So again, with social media, I feel as though recording certain information, when it can help a cause or push a narrative. So again, what do you guys think of using social media as a policing or a place to promote what's right? Do you think that that's something that social media should be for, or do you think that that's something that should be taken away from social media? Because if we say that it's not supposed to be for social media, where would we even be with Black Lives Matter? Yeah. Where would we be?
That's so important, because George Floyd, there would be no George Floyd. Right. It'd be their word, the police's word against, the community, basically. And I do think absolutely, and all these Karens that are out here today, who are just, it's absolutely necessary. And that's the difference between really people, especially in our community and black and brown communities, being hemmed up, locked up, and even lynched. And what about all of our missing children out here? And cases like that where, if it wasn't for social media and these phones that we have, a lot would be missed. And even when we have it, they say don't believe your own eyes, and they're trying to refute it instead of looking at the actual evidence that we can visually see. So this is necessary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really wish that it wasn't as dangerous as it is, because the thing is that you look back and you look at all of these situations where somebody where it wasn't just body cam imagery, it was actually someone sitting there recording. That if that person that was recording had the gumption to get in the middle of it, to at least stop it. If somebody ran over there and at least knocked that cop off of George Floyd's neck,
Right.
would that have given him that split second to be able to get some air? It may have led to his death, but it's almost like you're stuck. You have to record it, but then just sitting there recording it, there's an issue with that too. Because you're literally, a lot of cases, sitting there watching a human being's last moments, and it's like you didn't do anything but record.
Well, do you think social media is taking away from us being brave? So we feel as though us being brave is us taking the chance to record it instead of us taking the chance to actually sit in and, like you said, push that person off of George Floyd.
Yeah, I think it's done. I think they've done enough with just the fear nowadays, where you're scared to do anything except for staying
Right.
back and just do this. Because if you were actually able to get in there and to maybe affect some sort of change, you'd literally be putting your life on there.
Right.
You'd be making yourself a martyr, because if you went in there and they're sitting on it, they're standing on this man's neck.
Yeah.
For a bogus $20 bill, if that was it.
Right.
I came and I put my hands on you to push you off of him.
Now I'm getting arrested.
I know I'm
yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
I know I'm dead. But there's a certain amount of desensitizing that's gone on in our community, where we can sit there and just watch somebody die, and to be held captive by that fear. Yeah, it's good that we record. It's good that we get that out there, because a lot of times the media is going to skew it and spin it a totally different way. So we have to. That's the least that we can do, or the most that we can do. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad. I would love if we could feel comfortable doing more and know that we may not lose our lives over it, that we may affect change and be able to then see that change.
Yeah. So in a sense, social media is our saving grace. It isn't.
Yeah.
Social media can be a sign of us being brave. It can be a sign of us technically standing up for ourselves, because if we were, depending on your race or background or ethnicity, you stepping out in front and trying to save someone instead of recording them, you're doing more harm to yourself and possibly that person than you are if you just record.
I have a comment I would like to share. I had a situation where this
This is Heath Wiggins speaking
Yeah,
for
this is me.
our audience.
I had a situation where I was on the metro going to work, and I was with my wife. Me and Bernie were sitting there, and there's a white woman came on the car, and you know in DC Metro they have 3 doors, and so she came in like the farthest door, and I was sitting kind of in the middle, and she came running down the aisle like in a fury, like, and she was like running real fast.
Not these facial expressions, sorry.
And so she passed me, and I was like, what's she running for? And then this black man came down, and he was like walking behind her. And so he got up, he came up to her, and she's like, stop it, get away from me, leave me alone. And this was in the morning.
Oh my
now it's like
goodness.
6 o'clock, 6:45 in the morning going to work. So I was like, what is all this commotion going on? I'm trying to read my Bible.
Your Bible,
Yes.
specifically.
And so he smacked her on her butt. And then she's like, stop it. And then she ran. And I was thinking like you, Thomas, like, okay, you know, if you get involved and then somebody, something happens, you know, she ends up like, no, leave him alone. She ends up protecting the person who's attacking her. That's
Then
what
it's
I was
back on
thinking was
you.
going to happen. And I was like, you know, I thought they were playing, or it was just like, I don't know what the situation was. But then she ran to the middle door, and he did something again to her. And she's like, stop it. And she ran down to the further door, the third door. So I was like, oh, so this is serious. So I put my Bible down, and I got up, and I started walking. I walked down to them. I was like, I don't know what made me I think I know what made me do this, but I had seen this TV show that has a lot of scenarios where, like, what would you do? And stuff happens in public, and people just watch.
Right.
And I've always thought to myself, I don't want to be that person that's like sitting there watching. So I got up and I walked down to the woman, and I stood in the middle of him, and he was standing on my left, and then she was on my right. He was going to do something else to her, so I put my hand up and stopped him from doing it. I was like, "Don't do it." And I had a pen in my hand, my pocket. So I took my pen out of my pocket, and I turned the bottom of the pen so the ink, the lead was showing, or the ink was showing. So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna stab him in his neck."
Wow.
And then I'm gonna kick him first and stab him in his neck. And so I was like, okay, that's my plan. If he does anything to me, and I was looking at his hands, I was looking at his waist to see if he had any kind of gun or anything. I was like, if he does any move, I'm gonna stab him in his neck, and then I'm just gonna go from there. And so he was staring me down, I'm staring him down, and so the train finally came to a stop, and then the door opens, and she's leaning against the door on the side of the open, so she ran out the door. He went to chase after her, so I put my hand up, I was like, don't do it, bro. And so he stopped, and so he looked at me, and he flinched. And I was like, I saw he didn't have anything in his waistband, so I didn't jump. I was like, what are you doing? Plus, I had my hand on my
on your weapon.
Yeah.
And so she ran, and I don't know where she ran, but then the door closed, and then I stood there until the next train ride, and then he got off, and then I went back and sat down. And on the way back, all these people that were watching this whole thing were like, good job.
Wow,
good
but they
job,
didn't stop
good job.
themselves.
Good job. I was like, ain't none of y'all up here
Right.
Yeah.
and expect to come to this white woman's rescue, but this black man.
They wasn't coming to your rescue if
They weren't. If something popped off.
If old boy decided to really put some balls on you. But
Bernie said that she saw the whole thing going down and was like, why isn't anybody else helping him?
Yeah.
And so she said, if he does anything, I'm jumping up and pulling the emergency brake on the train. So everybody's going to be inconvenienced because
Yeah, absolutely. That's a kudos to you, Heath.
Yeah. Let's
up.
give round of applause in the comments for Heath Wiggins.
Yeah.
Standing
But
up
my
for the
thought
rights.
was what went through my head when you told that story is what would have happened in this incident that I explained earlier with the SEPTA train if just one person. There was so many people on that train. If one person stepped in and did anything remotely close to what Heath did for this white woman, what would have happened to this lady on the train?
It's like we were security.
Yeah.
So it's a sad story.
It is.
But yeah, I say all that to say we don't know. We don't know if in some situations it's safe for us to step in, especially as African Americans, and we don't know we kind of know that social media may be our only saving grace in certain situations like that. And with all of that, I'm going to hand it over to David, and hopefully he has something a little bit lighter than what we just talked about.
No, it's all good, Chloe, because what you talked, it was necessary what we just discussed, and we're going to talk about now transition to students, right?
Okay.
You all probably have heard about the story at Howard University with students really filing complaints